Hey. Okay, so I'm doing this video because I told some family members that I would do a video versus a bunch of texts with really bad English. I haven't been able to call a lot of people back and give them an update, and I don't think a lot of people really know how this all started and where we're at now. So I'm going to catch you up to speed and let you know what's going on and where we're at and what we want to do to try to get my mom better. So Tuesday she gets sick. Monday she's fine. Tuesday she gets sick. She ends up in the ER. They release her. She doesn't do any better. She ends up back in the ER. They end up admitting her and they transfer her from the ER in Bastrop. They transfer her to a hospital here in Austin, St. Davis, South Austin Hospital. Wednesday morning, she ends up coding twice. They transfer her to ICU, and they know there's something going on with her gut, with her intestines, with her bowel, and they had pre-diagnosed her with gastroenteritis, and they originally thought that maybe it was C. diff, and she had gotten really sick from C. diff, and she was tested for that. She was tested for any kind of bacterial growth within her intestinal area, and they did a fecal matter culture where they try to grow bacteria from that, and it came back negative. So it was absolutely no bacterial growth there. So there's two ways you can get gastroenteritis. One way is through bacteria that you ingest if somebody doesn't prepare your food right, or if you're in the hospital, but it's transferred via your mouth. We actually carry it within our own digestional tract, but our bodies can contain it. So when we transfer it into our bodies through our mouth, it gets into our bloodstream and it infects us, and it causes a really bad infection. The second way is via a virus, which the body itself just produces. So if the body itself produces this virus, that means that the body is fighting against itself. So everything points towards viral. If the body's fighting against itself, then we're looking at an autoimmune dysfunction. So they said originally that it would take about 72 hours for her to get well. Friday morning comes around and she's not doing any better. As a matter of fact, she's getting worse. So then they decide that they want to go in and do exploratory surgery via laparoscopy, which is two small incisions that they do, and they stick a camera in there and they take a look around. She had very high lactic acid, and lactic acid is an indicator that your body's getting toxic, and your body gets toxic because in this case they were thinking that it was ischemic colitis, which means that the blood flow going into, there's about 50% or 50 or 75% of our blood flow goes into our intestinal area. And when it's cut off because your other major organs are in distress, and so it cuts off that blood flow, and it takes that blood up to your heart, your lungs, your other major organs that help keep you alive. But then you run the risk of necrosis meaning dead. So they were concerned that there was a part of her intestines that had died off, and that can lead to gangrene, which ultimately leads to death. So they were thinking they were going to have to go into full-blown surgery. Well, they get in there, no necrosis, pretty good news, but we're back to square one of, well, so it's gastroenteritis. Gastroenteritis typically can be treated. You don't even have to be hospitalized. So the question is, why is she in such bad shape here? Originally, they did not want to acknowledge that this was some autoimmune disorder like lupus, and I was saying that she had already tested positive for lupus. So they were treating her symptomatically versus treating the underlying cause. She is at a point where she's on a breathing machine, typical coming out of this surgery being in ICU. She was in renal failure. Her heart is tachycardia on a pretty consistent level. She had gone down, but last night she spiked kind of abruptly for no really good reason. The nurse said that it happens when patients are in ICU, but she was absolutely still. There really just was no reason for her heart rate to go as high as it did. Got up to, I think, 172. Which if you go and run or do any kind of aerobic activity, your heart rate might get up to 150. So imagine a patient